Hi, a film I tracked down recently and was interested to see was The Hunter, the final film starring Steve McQueen, released in 1980, a few months before his death. It's based very loosely on fact and is about Ralph Thorson, known as Papa, who was the self-styled last old-fashioned bounty hunter. The film is very episodic. It's a catalogue of his various exploits in modern-day America, tracking down and capturing various targets, whilst also threading through it is the storyline about him settling down and becoming a father. McQueen is a very interesting figure, I find, in that he's so often held up as a great symbol of Hollywood masculinity, of manliness. But in real life, he was a very different figure. He took several years out from acting after the Towering Inferno in 1974, and his comeback was uh, an adaptation of Henrik Ibsen's An Enemy of the People, which he has long hair and a long beard, and the film was a massive disaster. He seemed very uninterested in Hollywood cool. It seemed to be something just that he exuded, and he went out of his way to counteract in many of his films. In fact, in The Hunter, the character is written to deliberately undermine McQueen's own screen image. He wears reading glasses. He goes with his girlfriend to her Lamaze classes. He collects antique toys, which was a real affectation of McQueen's, and in a deliberate subversion, he's a terrible driver. Every time he parks a car, he manages to drive into whatever he's parked next to. It's an entertaining film. There's an edge of humour to it. Again, McQueen has a nice line in taciturn humour, and there's some terrific action. But the film's problem is simply that it's too episodic and too lacking in an overall structure. This is demonstrated most clearly in it having three endings in a row. There's a recurring thread throughout the movie of a past target of Thorson's who wants to track him down and get revenge on him. So he gets these phone calls, and his girlfriend is menaced at her work where she works in a school. But then the big action climax of the movie is Thorson chasing a target across Chicago, which ends in a spectacular car going off a building into the river. Then he returns home, and there's a chase around the school, trying to track down and eliminate the crazed ex-criminal. And then finally, the girlfriend goes into labour, so there is a breakneck drive across the city to get her to hospital. So we have climax after climax with no real structure to the overall story. There's a strong performance by McQueen. I've always found him to be a very appealing actor with an interesting edge to his performance. He's never the clear cut um, all American leading man. There's always an interesting edge of something off to him, which I've always found very engaging. Eli Wallach, as his boss, appears in a couple of scenes. A young LeVar Burton appears early on as one of his targets, and then later a colleague. And so there's an engaging cast, and as I say, it's an exciting and entertaining film, but it just feels too much of a cobbled together structure to be great. Um, it's nice that with his final film, McQueen was able to do something a bit different, but still more within his wheelhouse. There's action and there's excitement, but there's still some fun character work and an edge of humour, as I said. And it's obviously a tragedy that he died at the age of only 50. But with this, he at least went out with a pretty decent entry in his filmography.